So there's a new book that just came out, and it details interesting, I guess you could say, moment with former President Trump when he was in the White House. So the Washington Post is reporting on this. The name of the book that this came from is Nightmare Scenario: Inside the Trump Administration's Response to the Pandemic That Changed History. And the Post's Yasmeen, Abutaleb, and Damian Paletta said the following, quote, "In the early days of the coronavirus pandemic, as White House officials debated whether to bring infected Americans home for care, President Donald Trump suggested his own plan for where to send them, eager to suppress the numbers on U.S. soil. With Trump asking aides, quote, 'Don't we have an island that we own? What about Guantanamo? We import goods. We are not going to import a virus.' Apparently, the president's aides were stunned by the suggestion, and then he quickly dropped it. So, Donald Trump asked his administration if we could ship COVID patients to Guantanamo Bay. That's incredible. That's incredible. Every now and then you get a banger story about this guy's intellect, man. One of my favorites was when he said that he thinks human energy works like a battery. So he had a friend who ran marathons, and he told the marathon runner all the time, "You're fucking crazy for doing this." And the guy's like, "Why? I don't understand what you're saying." He's like, "You're going to die young because you're using up all your energy in these marathons. It's terrible for your health." Meanwhile, Trump's, shoving Big Macs down his throat, playing golf, but other than that, being relatively sedentary. And he's like, "Oh, I'm saving all my energy. I'm good. I'll live to like 120. Dog, that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. The body's not like a battery. The more you work out, the better it is for you. So in other words, the more you do stuff, the more you can do stuff. You extend your life if you exercise, if you work out, if you're physically active. He thought it's the opposite, that we're like a battery. We have a limited amount of energy, and so don't try to use none of it. Like as little, you should move as little as possible, basically. This is the sort of stuff he believes. And so I'm actually not really surprised by his idea to send people with COVID to Guantanamo Bay, because the other thing is, he's hinted at this before, he views sickness as like, if you get sick, you're a weak person. You know what I mean? In the same way that a common Republican belief is like, if you're poor, it is 100% your fault. It's all on the individual. You're not a good enough person. You didn't work hard enough. So in other words, there's no such thing as like systemic factors. There's no such thing as like a virus or a disease that's completely beyond the control of the individual. You can, like, if you have sufficient character, and if you're a strong enough person, you could just overcome the disease. This is one of the things that he definitely believes. And so for him to be like, well, they already got the virus, so yeah, why not just hold them at Gitmo? Man, the downfall of the empire is quite a thing to see. It's quite a thing to see. Everything gets sillier and sillier by the day. We should have never even opened Guantanamo in the first place. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. You guys know the story about how the people got there because I've told you it. I'm one of few outlets that's ever talked about it. The way that we packed Guantanamo Bay is by cutting a deal with warlords from Afghanistan and Pakistan and telling them, hey guys, we were just attacked on 9/11. Send us Al-Qaeda operatives. And you know what those people did? Turns out warlords aren't very trustworthy. They went out and rounded up all of their political enemies and shipped them to the United States, shipped them to Guantanamo Bay. And we kept them there, tortured many of them, just like we tortured people at Abu Ghraib. Come to find out, the overwhelming majority of them were totally innocent. And that's not to say if they were guilty that you can torture them. You can't torture them. Torture is illegal under U.S. law, under international law. When Japan tortured our soldiers in World War II, we took those same people and gave them the death penalty because we said torture is against the law, you can't do it. Then we copied the same tactics of a communist Chinese manual on how to torture, and then we had the nerve to say, it's not torture, it's enhanced interrogation when we do it. So this is the story of Guantanamo Bay. Should have never existed, should have never been opened, held innocent people there, tortured people there, And now he wanted to throw some Gitmo patients there. Or excuse me, throw some COVID patients there at Gitmo. What's your long-term goal, bro? Like, what would the goal have been? How long are you going to keep them there? What's the process that we're talking about here? Why would you send them to a prison? It wouldn't like a more reasonable thing be like, I don't know, a resort or some shit? Jesus. This is one of those stories where you're reminded, people who are running society, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. And you saw this even with the official response from like the CDC and the FDA and the, the doctors and the scientists. They didn't fucking know. And unfortunately, it was very rare that people would just be like, I don't know the answer to that. They'd still try to tell you some shit even though they don't know. And that's how we got into a lot of these problems to begin with the misinformation. Now people definitely don't trust institutions. But you know what? Why should they trust institutions? The institutions undermine themselves. So anyway, here we are, President Numbnuts. Send COVID patients to Gitmo. Great idea, bro.